All right, let's dive right into this explainer and equip you with the top 10 survival power tools you absolutely need to confidently talk about the past in Spanish. Listen, if you've ever frozen mid-sentence at a cafe, staring blankly at a barista because you simply couldn't figure out how to say what you did just yesterday, well, this is exactly what you need. That feeling of being stuck is incredibly frustrating, but honestly, it's completely avoidable. Today, we're focusing purely on high-frequency verbs, the absolute essentials that are going to do all the heavy lifting for you in everyday conversation.
Here's our survival roadmap for today. 1. Spanish past tense power tools. 2. Two regular verb endings. 3. The irregular big three. 4. Matching verbs to context. And finally, 5. Building your Spanish story.
So, let's jump straight into section 1. Spanish past tense power tools, the signals that activate the past.
To start things off, we need to talk about time markers. Think of words like ayer, meaning yesterday, and anoche, meaning last night, as your starting guns. The second you hear them, or the second you want to use them, you instantly know it's time to activate your preterite or past tense verbs. Honestly, it's like a giant green traffic light. The moment ayer or anoche enters the sentence, your brain should automatically switch gears. You don't even have to second guess it. These words give you total, 100% permission to pull out the exact tools we're about to cover.
Moving right along to section 2. 2. Regular verb endings. Chunking the rules.
Now, what's really cool about this part is how easily we can divide our regular verbs up to make them stick in your memory forever. We can actually chunk these into two very distinct sound buckets. In the first bucket, verbs ending in R switch to a really sharp A sound. Listen to how consistent this rhythm is. We get hablé for I spoke, trabajé for I worked, necesité for I needed, and estudié for I studied. Let those sink in for a second. Hablé, trabajé, necesité, estudié. Okay, now over in the second bucket, our other regular verbs take an I sound. We have comí for I ate, viví for I lived, and dormí for I slept. Comí, viví, dormí. Just by splitting them into these two simple phonetic categories, the E sounds and the E sounds, you are instantly armed with 7 incredibly powerful tools to describe the vast majority of a standard day.
Which brings us to section 3, the irregular big three, your high-frequency cheat sheet.
So these next 3 tools completely refuse to follow the neat little rules we just learned, but they are absolutely vital for daily survival. First up on the cheat sheet is fui, meaning I went, which comes from the verb ir. You are going to use this constantly. Think about how much of our daily conversation revolves around just moving around a city, going to the store, going to work, hitting up a friend's house. For example, ayer nosotros fuimos al mercado. Yesterday, we went to the market. Notice how fui adapts to fuimos when we talk about we, but that core concept of moving from one place to another in the past, it remains exactly the same.
Next up is quise, meaning I wanted, coming from the verb querer. This one perfectly captures all those past desires. You might say, ayer yo quise un café. Yesterday, I wanted a coffee. It's such a brief, simple phrase, but it carries a ton of weight. Think about how often you need to express a craving or a desire that hit you earlier in the day, especially when you're traveling. Quise is literally the key to unlocking that expression without stumbling over your words.
And the final irregular is tuve, meaning I had, which comes from tener. This completes our big 3 cheat sheet for expressing things you possessed or experienced. El lunes yo tuve una cita. On Monday, I had an appointment. I really want to pause here and emphasize just how powerful these 3 words are. Between fui, quise, and tuve, going, wanting, and having, you're covering an enormous chunk of the human experience. Seriously, knowing these 3 irregulars alone is about 80% of the battle when you're navigating a foreign country. You can communicate so much without ever needing to get bogged down in complex grammar charts.
All right, section 4, matching verbs to context, testing your new tools.
The whole trick is knowing exactly when to use these words. So let's test your active recall with a quick real-world scenario. Imagine this sentence. Anoche el perro blank en el sofá. Okay, so we know anoche means last night, and we have a dog on a sofa. Which power tool fills in that blank? Option A, comí, which means I ate. Option B, dormí, which means I slept. Or option C, viví, which means I lived. Well, a dog on a sofa at night points pretty directly to option B, right? Dormí. The dog slept on the sofa.
Let's try another one. Ayer, yo blank el almuerzo al mediodía. Yesterday, I blank lunch at noon. The massive context clue here is almuerzo, or lunch. So which verb are we pulling out for that? Well, if you guessed option A, comi, you hit the nail on the head. Comi meaning I ate. Once you start scanning sentences for obvious clues, like a sofa for sleeping or lunch for eating, deploying the right verb becomes incredibly instinctive.
Now, real fluency isn't just about picking one isolated word. It's about chaining them together in a single breath to express a complete, complex idea. Take this thought, for example. Yo quise aprender español porque viví en este país el año pasado. I wanted to learn Spanish because I lived in this country last year. Look at how seamlessly that flows. You take an irregular verb, quise, for I wanted, and immediately follow it up in the very next clause with a regular verb, viví, for I lived. Just like that, you are constructing highly descriptive thoughts that sound incredibly natural.
Here's another amazing real-world combination. Let's say you're recapping your weekend to a colleague. You might say, Nosotros fuimos al restaurante y comimos tacos. We went to the restaurant and we ate tacos. Boom. You've just described a great night out seamlessly. First, you establish the location with your irregular tool, fuimos, and then you immediately establish the action with your regular tool, comimos.
And that brings us to Section 5, Building Your Spanish Story, Lo que hice ayer, or What I Did Yesterday. For our final section, we're going to take every single tool we've learned today and build out a complete busy day from start to finish. Let's narrate a typical morning. First, you might start the day and say, Trabajé en la escuela. I worked at school. Because of that, tuve mucho trabajo. I had a lot of work. And naturally, dealing with all of that, necesité un café. I needed a coffee. Notice how this isn't just a list of random vocabulary words anymore? In just 3 short, connected phrases, you've painted a crystal clear picture of a demanding morning using nothing but your new survival toolkit.
As the day progresses into the afternoon, we just keep chaining these actions together to build out the story. After that busy morning, you might say, comí en un café. I ate in a café. While sitting there, quise practicar, I wanted to practice my Spanish. So, estudié lecciones, I studied lessons. And then finally, feeling pretty confident, hablé con vecinos, I spoke with neighbors. Think about how much data you're conveying here. You're talking about eating, your internal desires, your studying, and your social interactions, and you're doing it all relying entirely on those basic A and E patterns, plus that one essentially regular, quise.
Finally, as the sun sets, you're heading home to wrap up your day. You tell a friend, viví cerca del centro. I lived near downtown. So, fui a pie al mercado. I went on foot to the market. Exhausted from the long day, dormí temprano. I slept early. By weaving together just these 10 high-frequency words, you've completely unlocked the power to narrate an entire 24-hour cycle of a human life in Spanish. It really is that straightforward.
So, to wrap up this explainer, I'm going to turn it over to you. Grab the time marker ayer or anoche, pick just one of these 10 tools, and tell me, what did you do? How would you describe your past 24 hours? Did you work? Did you study? Did you sleep? Test yourself right now. Building true understanding requires putting these concepts into action immediately. So start building your own Spanish story today, because if you don't use it, you lose it. Keep practicing, and I'll catch you in the next one.